Hi, I'm Remi BOlduc from Montreal, and welcome to this second video on sax technique. On the latest video, I was talking about long tones, and now I am talking about overtones. So, what's an overtone? An overtone, it's a natural harmonic that comes from a note, like say on the saxophone, and that applies to every instrument. It's, let's say you play a specific note, a low note. Here I have a low B. From that fingering, low B fingering, there is a series of harmonics that I can play. They go like this. Okay, so let's talk about that. I mentioned in the last video when I was talking about long tones, the difference between playing soft and loud. And so when I was working on long tones, I was working on getting better at the transition between soft and loud. What happens with my tongue, what happens with the air, with the embouchure, etc. And so when I deal with overtones, of course there is different way to practice overtones. The way I practice them, it's I work on the overtones to help me to understand how I should play within different registers. How do I go from a high note to a low note? And doing this, I'm became aware that when you play soft in a long tone, it's really similar to playing high on the saxophone. And when you play loud on a long tone, it's similar to play low. So when I'm going from high to low, it's similar from going soft to loud, and the other way around as well. So let's check it out. So how I practice them? Well, I guess I'll show you how I practice them with the intervals, and then, of course, some of those overtones might be too high or too difficult for you to play, and then I'll give you some exercises to help you to have them. And then we'll talk about different way how to use the overtones and different way of practicing them within musical phrases, and also looking at some ideas from great players in jazz history. So what I'm doing here, I'm playing say a low note, a low B. Now I'm going to play the second octave. So when I play the first harmonic, it's like playing a B second octave with the fingering of a low B. And that's an exercise comparing sound that's often used. And trying to match the sound. Some people say that would help you to open up your sound, and it's true, because the low B with all the key closed sounds bigger than this one. But I would just mention that on certain notes that doesn't work too well, especially on the second octave, because when I do high B, on my horn, the high B is flat, so I have to think of the letter E. But if I think of the letter E to play overtone on that high B with a low B fingering, won't work. So I got to think like that. And then the sound here I have is more like a ooh. A bit like if you have a hot potato, in your mouth. So I don't want that sound when I play the regular fingering. So there is a bit of a difference. Sometime when I want to get more overtone in my playing, I'll get my mouth in a different position. Okay, so let's go back to our exercise. So I'm doing the first octave, the B, and then I'm going to the B, the low B, like this. And my exercise goes like this. Okay, so when I'm going from high to low, I would say my tone when I play higher is higher because there is less air going to the horn. So that's the same idea. I would advise that you listen to the video I did before in long tone. They're going to explain why when you have less air, you need to put your tongue up so the airstream is faster. So when I play higher, I usually raise my tongue. If I want to go high B, regular fingering, my hair is higher than if I go, so my tongue is higher and than when I play low. So I'm going like ooh, ah, with more octave, of course, when I play it. Also, when I play high, there is less air, so I need to push it more, the same way as I was doing in the overtones when I was playing soft. So my tongue is higher, I have less air, so I'm pushing more, and when I give maybe a little bit more pressure on the mouthpiece, I could think about pushing forward again, and that kind of bring my airstream lower. And then maybe a little more on the tip of the embouchure, as opposed to this. So when I do that low note, my tongue is lower. I let go of the air because there is more air, so I don't push it as much with the diaphragm. Kind of feel like I'm leaning back. Less pressure also on the embouchure, maybe a bit more embouchure in the mouth, and then I'm aiming to blow higher. And of course, I can do this. It's kind of the intention of it. I'm not doing when I do this. I don't move that much. I don't go like this. Heavy. See, that's pretty subtle. But I am doing this, somehow. So when I do my overtone, this is how I practice it. I go from the low note and do the intervals. So I practice that motion, what's going on, because the horn is not moving, so it is me that control those notes. And how do I do it? So that's one way of practicing it. Let me talk about a few things. Well, some people, of course, it's easier to do the second octave than it is to go higher, the fifth. When you get to the high B, that's harder. And sometimes it's actually easier, some of the higher note. So let's talk about what you do if you cannot have the overtone out. Well, if I talk about the second one, usually you can do it, but maybe sometimes it sounds like this. So it's not quite clean. So when that happens, I would suggest not rush to the overtone. If it's too difficult, really use the regular fingering and then go to the low B. And you have to relax into this. So you don't want to go like that. And, so that doesn't really help. The thing is, when you do overtones, if you start missing the overtone and you do it over and over, you're kind of getting better at missing it. So a trick sometimes to do, it's so you don't stop the airstream and you relax more. When you do the overtones, I'm doing the second octave B with a low B fingering. So when it cracks, as opposed to stop and panic, I keep blowing and try to bring it up. A trick to bring it up, it's not too bad on the first octave, but you'll see later on they're going to help. I'm going to move the finger of the note I'm aiming for. Here I want to have a B second octave, so it goes higher when I do this. But it's going to bring it back right away, and I can do it pretty quickly, so I'll practice like that. If it cracks, until I start to get more at ease in it. I can do the same with the F sharp, which will be here. If I go there and it's cracking, then I'm going to move the F fingering. Until I get center on it. And same thing with the high B. But here that might be even difficult to do this. So what I'm going to do when I want to get the overtone better on the second octave, especially around the B, I will start to use the fifth. Because the first overtone is the octave, and then you have the fifth, and then another octave, then go to the third, the fifth, the seventh, the tonic, so now the octave, the ninth, then I'm going to the third. Here I'm going to the sharp 11, I was doing the fifth and then the sixth after. I kind of tuned them with my mouth because the actual natural harmonic are not quite like this. You can look them up, and but this is the one I'm practicing on the horn. So when you get to the octave, the fifth, the other octave. So that one sometimes is difficult. So since you have to the octave, the other overtone is the fifth, so I'll use the fifth to help me get those higher overtones together. I'll start somewhere where it's easier. For instance, if I'm doing the G second octave, like this, then I can do it with the low C. And I don't put the octave key when I do the overtone. Actually, I don't put it at all, but you could start with the octave key here, with the G, and then remove it. That's usually not too bad. Many players can do that. Same like basically if I'm doing the F with the B flat, F sharp with B, G with C, G sharp with C sharp. Here I'm using the C sharp fingering for the G sharp, since it had the same sound. So I don't have to do like this. Now it's getting trickier. A with D. See, now I've already have to do a bit the letter U. See, the sound's different a bit. I'm going as opposed to E. Doesn't work. And then I get to the B flat with the E flat. Okay, now say you can't get up to there. So I'll give you a few tricks. Let's say I was able to do G sharp and C sharp. Usually many people can do that. And then when they get to the A and D, it doesn't work. So don't go over and over and do it when it doesn't work. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take a backdoor for it. For instance, I'm gonna do G sharp to the C sharp. And I won't go to the regular fingering for A. I'm just gonna go to a D fingering and try to make it sound like a A, like this. So I'll work on that for a while, because that's easier to do it this way, because you're coming from an overtone. Okay, when I'm able to do this, I'll do it, but more a bit like a flam. Now when I'm able to do that, I'll do it differently. I'll start from an A, and then go to the low C sharp, like this. Again, now doing the flam. And then the more I do that, I'll pretend I'm doing a flam. And that kind of thing. Same thing if I can do the A to D, but not B flat to E flat, then I'll start again A D, then move to E flat, more like a flam, and then B flat to A, so B flat to the fingering of D, and now to E flat with the flam, until I can go there. So this is one way of doing it. The other way, as I was mentioning, is to help you by moving the fingering and so on. And so you can work, of course, at the beginning, I used to work on the the overtones, and just being able to play them. But now I'm working more on the intervals when I work on overtones. Again, I mentioned in my previous video some great resource for saxophone technique, and for overtone, again, David Lehman's video on sounds great. There is a lot of exercises in this video talking about overtone, playing scale on them, and different things that are quite interesting. So I definitely would advise to check that video out. And also, if I think about different way of playing with the overtone, You can, when you check out solos, of course, sorry, of course you'll hear John Coltrane, Michael Brecker, Jerry Berganzi, and many players using them. Sometime to check out what they're doing, maybe transcribe a few lines, see how they do it. It's helpful. I'll play a few lines maybe and show you a few things they do. For instance, Michael Brecker used that. As you see, here it's a D. And often when you get into those type of sound using the fifth, sometimes mixed with the octave. For instance, here, the second one would be, technically should be a G. But the G is kind of high, so if I use the F sharp, it's a bit flat. So in this case, I'm cheating. I'm keeping the high D palm key on, and I finger F sharp. Then I get an overtone by the fifth that is in tune. That's the first part. And then I'm going to a low C, and then a middle F. So I get many C's in a row. And it goes like that. That's one idea. Here's one by Jerry Berganzi. So in this one, I'm starting from E, going down to a G. Play a low C on the G. Then go to high C. And to get the overtone on the C, I use the fifth. I go to an F. And then I go down the scale from there. It sounds like that. Faster. That's another idea. Sometimes when you get into overtone, it's good to start by thinking what are the actual fingering of those overtone. For instance, in this one. So if I'm not doing the overtone, it would sound like this. So this is the actual fingerings. And when you put your mouth a bit more into a into a oo shape, oo, the overtone kick in, and you get those kind of sound. Another one would go like this. Here I'll play the actual fingering. And now put my mouth in a shape so I get more the overtone. Here's another one. I'll play the regular sounds of the fingerings. So in this case, I'm using a low B flat, but I'm using the second octave B flat. And then I make that B flat sound like an F, like this. And then when I go to a low D, I make that sound like an A. You get that kind of thing happening. And maybe another one. That one is from John Coltrane. That's on the break of Summertime on the album My Favorite Thing. And so the fingering would actually be. Now if I make some of those notes sound like the fifth here, as opposed to go, I go. And you get that kind of sound. So it's a little bit more like, abstract. And here's one of my own that I used to practice to help you hear the overtone into a phrase. And you can do that one over the B flat, the B, the C, and the C sharp. And see, when I do that one over B flat, I keep the B flat down. Etc. So that's a good one. I use it sometime. Now, maybe to conclude, let's talk a bit about how to use the overtone while improvising. There is different ways. I used to practice something that helped me to get them under my fingers and hearing them. And that would be that when I was improvising, let's say I'm improvising here, at the end of a phrase, when I finish on a note that I could play by the overtone, like say a G here, I would play the overtone by the fifth. Then, when I'm more comfortable with this, I try to go to an overtone without repeating a note. Say, etc. You know, eventually you start to get a bit in the vibe with those fingerings. And this concludes this video on overtones. So overtones, again, it's a great exercise for your sound, airstream, also to use in a way the horn against you, where the horn is holding, where you have a fingering that you're using, but you, with your mouth and control and air, are able to play other tones, other notes coming out of this one fingering. So it helps you very much to control how to play the horn. And so the next video, I'll do something else. I'm not sure yet what. Again, thank you very much for watching. I'm Remi BOlduc from Montreal. Please, you can like and share the video. That would be appreciated. Take care. Have a nice day.